You are likely here because you have encountered a frustrating and confusing paradox in your romantic life. It is a scenario that plays out with exhausting regularity for many adults who are genuinely seeking a long-term connection. You meet someone who is objectively wonderful. They are kind, they are consistent, they communicate clearly, and they are emotionally available. On paper, this is exactly what you have said you wanted for years. You have spent countless nights wishing for a partner who is consistent and emotionally available. And yet, instead of feeling relief or excitement, you feel a profound, heavy sense of flatness. You might describe it to your friends as a lack of chemistry. You might say the spark just isn't there. You might even feel a sudden, inexplicable irritation at their eagerness, a sensation often described as the ick. You go home, look at your ceiling, and wonder why you cannot force yourself to feel attracted to someone who is actually good for you. Meanwhile, your history is likely populated by partners who were emotionally unavailable, unpredictable, or even chaotic. With those people, you didn't have to try to feel something. The attraction was instant, magnetic, and overwhelming. You felt a rush of adrenaline, a constant state of high-stakes anticipation, and a desperate need to win their affection. You have likely equated that intense anxiety with passion, and now, faced with the calm waters of a secure attachment, you mistake peace for boredom. You are not alone in this, and more importantly, you are not broken. You are experiencing a very common psychological and physiological response to a change in relationship dynamics. Your nervous system is simply reacting to what it knows, and unfortunately for many of us, it knows chaos better than it knows peace. To understand why healthy love feels boring, we have to dismantle the cultural and biological myths surrounding the concept of the spark. We're raised on a steady diet of media, films, songs, novels that portrays love as a lightning strike. We're taught that true romance is an avalanche of emotion that sweeps us off our feet, characterized by obsession, sleeplessness, and a feeling of being out of control. We believe that if we do not feel this immediate, visceral intensity, then the relationship is not meant to be. However, if we look at this through the lens of neuroscience and attachment theory, that spark often has very little to do with long-term compatibility or love. Often, what you're feeling when you meet someone who triggers that intense chemistry is not destiny, it is recognition. Your unconscious mind recognizes a familiar dynamic, often one that mirrors the unresolved struggles of your past. If you grew up in an environment where love was conditional, volatile, or something you had to earn, your brain imprinted that pattern as the definition of intimacy. When you meet someone who replicates that unpredictability, someone who pulls away, who is hot and cold, or who makes you work for their attention, your brain lights up. It says, "Aha, I know this game. This is what love feels like." The anxiety you feel, the butterflies in your stomach, the obsessive checking of your phone, these are not symptoms of romance. These are symptoms of a sympathetic nervous system activation. Your body is going into fight or flight mode. You are hyper-aroused because your attachment system perceives a threat to the bond. You interpret this high arousal as passion, but it is actually stress. Contrast this with the experience of meeting a securely attached partner. A secure partner does not play games. They do not withdraw affection to punish you or to make themselves seem more desirable. They are transparent about their interest. When you are with them, your nervous system is not receiving any threat signals. There is no ambiguity to decode, no puzzle to solve, and no chase to pursue. Consequently, your body remains in a parasympathetic state, the rest and digest mode. Your heart rate doesn't spike. Your palms don't sweat. You don't feel that electric current of anxiety. To a brain that has been trained to associate love with high-stakes drama, this calmness feels like dead air. It feels like nothing is happening. You mistake the absence of anxiety for the absence of chemistry. You think, if I'm not panicked, I must not be in love. This is a fundamental error in translation. You are rejecting the nutrients of a healthy meal because you are addicted to the sugar rush of candy. The boredom you feel is not a sign that the person is uninteresting, it is a sign that you are safe. And for a nervous system that is adapted to survive in a war zone, safety can feel deeply suspicious and, yes, incredibly boring. Let's delve deeper into the biology of this addiction to chaos. It is not just a metaphor, it is a chemical reality. When you are in a relationship with an inconsistent partner, someone who is affectionate one moment and distant the next, you are subjected to what behavioral psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. This is the most powerful way to condition a behavior, and it is the exact same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. If a slot machine gave you money every single time you pulled the lever, you would quickly get bored of it. You would know exactly what to expect. But because it only gives you a reward sometimes, and you never know when that reward is coming, you become obsessed with the lever. You will pull it until you are bankrupt, chasing the high of the win. In an inconsistent relationship, your partner is the slot machine. The periods of distance or coldness create a state of deprivation and high anxiety in your brain. When they finally give you a crumb of affection, a text, a compliment, a good night, your brain is flooded with dopamine, the pleasure chemical. This relief feels euphoric because it stands in such sharp contrast to the pain of the uncertainty. You begin to crave that dopamine hit. You stay in the relationship not because you are happy, but because you are addicted to the cycle of rupture and repair. A secure partner destroys this chemical loop. They are consistent, they are reliable, they provide a steady stream of affection and presence. There is no period of deprivation, so there is no euphoric rush of relief. It is a flat line of contentment. To a dopamine-addicted brain, this feels dull. You are waiting for the drop, for the crash, for the high, and none of it comes. You are just having dinner. You are just watching a movie. There is no subtext. This can make you feel restless, agitated, or even depressed. You might find yourself missing the highs of your past toxic relationships, conveniently forgetting the crushing lows that accompanied them. You might unknowingly sabotage the stable moment just to feel something intense. You might pick a fight, withdraw emotionally, or fixate on a flaw in your partner, all in an unconscious attempt to generate the friction that makes you feel alive. You are trying to turn the hearth back into a firework because you don't know how to warm your hands. You only know how to watch things explode. This phenomenon often manifests in very specific, everyday patterns that can derail a budding, healthy relationship. One common tendency is the urge to manufacture conflict where none exists. You might find yourself having a perfectly pleasant Sunday morning, and suddenly, you feel a crawling sensation of restlessness. Without consciously realizing why, you might pick a fight about something trivial, like the dishes or a tone of voice. This is not because you are an angry person. It is because your body is seeking a familiar sensation. If you are used to fighting to feel close or fighting to prove you care, peace feels like indifference. By creating a crisis, you force an emotional reaction, which paradoxically makes you feel safer because it returns you to a known state of high arousal. You provoke the dragon just to make sure it is still there. Another pattern is the misinterpretation of consistency as desperation or lack of value. In the dating phase, if someone texts you back immediately or asks to see you again without playing it cool, you might feel the ick. You might perceive them as too easy or unchallenging. This is often a defense mechanism. We are frequently taught that love is something we must earn through struggle. If someone gives us their attention freely, our subconscious logic assumes it must not be worth very much. We devalue the secure person because they are not forcing us to jump through hoops. Meanwhile, we continue to romanticize the emotionally unavailable people from our past, remembering them as exciting and mysterious, while conveniently forgetting the anxiety and pain they caused. We mistake their inconsistency for complexity, and we mistake the secure partner's transparency for simplicity. It is also common to feel a sense of loss or grief when transitioning to a healthy dynamic. We often do not talk about this because it sounds counterintuitive. Why would you grieve the loss of a toxic pattern? But if your identity has been wrapped up in being the fixer, the chaser, or the victim, a healthy relationship essentially puts you out of a job. There is no one to fix. There is no one to chase. You are forced to just sit there and be yourself, without the distraction of a relationship crisis to occupy your mind. This can be terrifying. It brings up all the internal thoughts and feelings you were using the drama to suppress. You might feel bored not because the other person is boring, but because you are finally left alone with your own thoughts in the quiet space they provide. If you recognize these patterns in yourself, there are practical tools you can use to reframe your experience and retrain your nervous system. The first step is to conduct what we can call a boredom audit. When you feel that wave of flatness or the urge to pull away, take a moment to journal or reflect on the specific quality of that boredom. Ask yourself if the person is truly uninteresting, meaning you have nothing in common, you do not share values, and you cannot talk to them, or if the boredom is actually peace. Is the silence heavy and awkward, or is it just calm? Are you bored with them, or are you bored because you are not anxious? Writing this down helps you separate the objective reality of the connection from your internal chemical withdrawal. It allows you to see that the person might be great, but your drug of choice, the drama, is missing. Another helpful technique is the 5-minute pause. This is particularly useful when you feel the sudden urge to sabotage a moment or pick a fight. When you feel that spike of irritation or that compulsion to push the other person away, freeze. Do not act on it for 5 full minutes. During this time, acknowledge that your nervous system is likely trying to protect you from the vulnerability of intimacy. Remind yourself that you are safe. Use this pause to regulate your breathing and bring your body back to the present moment. Often, the urge to create chaos is a wave that will pass if you do not ride it. By simply waiting, you interrupt the neural pathway that says peace equals danger, and you give your brain a chance to learn a new association. It is helpful to challenge the myths we hold about what strength and passion look like. We often believe that a strong connection must feel like a collision. We tell ourselves that if we are not suffering or obsessing, we are not really in love. But this is a narrative that keeps us stuck in pain. Real strength is not about enduring the highs and lows of a volatile partner. Real strength is the ability to show up consistently for someone who shows up for you. It takes much more courage to be vulnerable in a quiet, safe room than it does to fight a war. You might have a friend who says, "I just need that spark," and you watch them cycle through the same heartbreak year after year. Reframing your goal from finding a spark to building a fire can be transformative. A spark is flashy and instant, but it burns out quickly and leaves you in the dark. A fire requires steady attention, fuel, and protection, but it keeps you warm for a lifetime. As you practice staying in the discomfort of safety, you may find that your definition of attraction begins to shift. At first, the secure partner feels like a vegetable dish when you are used to candy. It might seem bland, but as you nourish yourself with it, you start to feel better. You start to sleep better. You have more energy for your career, your hobbies, and your friends because you are not exhausting all your resources on relationship management. You begin to appreciate the subtle flavors of reliability, humor, and genuine care. You realize that boring was just the label you use for safe, and that safety is actually the foundation upon which true, sustainable intimacy is built. The transition from a chaotic attachment style to a secure one is not an overnight process. It is a rewiring of deep-seated habits. You will likely mess up. You will likely have days where you miss the adrenaline. That is normal. Be patient with yourself. The goal is not to force yourself to love someone you simply do not like. The goal is to ensure you do not reject someone wonderful simply because they are not hurting you. It is about learning to tolerate the quiet long enough to see what grows in it. So, the next time you find yourself thinking that a stable relationship feels boring, stop and ask yourself a question. Are you really looking for a partner, or are you looking for a plot twist? If you are ready for a partner, then that boredom you feel might just be the sound of the war finally ending. It is the feeling of arriving home. And while coming home might not be an adrenaline rush, it is exactly where you need to be to rest, recover, and build a life that is truly your own.